Ladies and gentlemen, good morning from Palestine, from Adwa TV. We welcome to best friends for the Palestinian people in whom Mr. Teri McIntosh, the head of Christian Jesus Embassy in Palestine, and his partner, brother Bob Close. They are coming to Palestine to say hello to everybody and to speak about the message of them. First, again, we welcome to them and say hello.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're happy to be here.
Of course, yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bob. We want to speak now about your visiting to Palestine. This is not the first visit. You once been here many times. Can you speak for us about your mission here?
Well, yes, of course. But first of all, let me say thank you to Adwa Television for having us here today and for the great work that you're doing and sponsoring Christian programming along with other programming that you're doing. It's all very important, and we just want to say thank you very much for doing that. But as far as our work here in Palestine, we have many friends here. Mm-hmm. And we've been engaged for more than 20 years here in Palestine. Yeah. And we've become very familiar with the people, with the circumstances, the hardships, and the tears that they cry. And of course, we come with a message of love. The message we bring is about God's love for the Palestinian people. And for the Jewish people, for everyone who will do right, God's love is great. And the problems of this land are thought to be for many different reasons. But we believe that the problems of the land is not following the way of God. And so we encourage folks to look to God, to embrace His ways, and to follow His teachings. And of course, as Christians, we believe that is through Jesus Christ. And so we share this good news with everyone who has an ear to hear and is willing to talk with us about it.
Welcome here, Mr. Teri, and we ask Brother Bob, this is not the first time to you to visit Palestine. What about your impression here?
I say, on the outside, I may be an American.
Yeah.
But my heart is with Palestine.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That's kind of you.
And I love to be here.
Yeah, thank you. Now, Mr. Teri, we want to ask you about your new book. You have another before you write it in Palestine. Now this book you finished in United States, where you are born. Can you tell us what is the book about?
Yes. Well, the first book that you mentioned was called Resurrection Palestine. And it's a complication of facts pertaining to the relationship between Palestinians and Jews, and from the historical and the Bible record of this relationship and God's plan. The new book, I Shall, for the sake of my holy name, is written to the Christian community to help them understand what the Bible really says about the Palestinians, about the Jews, because there's a lot of wrong teachings that have been taught for generations, and Christians have failed to read the Bible correctly. And so the book is about God's great plan of reconciliation with a just and lasting peace for the Palestinian, but also for the Jew who will do right. And it's not just for Palestinians, it's about the Jewish people as well. Yeah. But there is a requirement, and that is that everyone would do right and follow the ways of God. But it's about God's love as told from the Bible. The Bible tells the whole story, brother. It tells the whole story from beginning to end when read properly. Modern DNA science confirms what the Bible teaches. And that is that the Palestinian gene pool is an exact match with the Jewish gene pool, with the exception of a few Arab genes that have mixed in, which would be expected through marriage and when the Islamic Arabic movement came to the Middle East, even after that, and before that actually. So the book talks about these facts that are there. It tells the Bible story, and the DNA results confirm that story. And at the end of the book, we will discover God's great plan of reconciliation for the Palestinian and the Jewish people.
That's meaning what others said. There is a misunderstanding with other committee about the DNA in this case.
Yes. Now, DNA is a scientific evidence. It's accepted in the courts of law in the world. It's not to be disputed. Now, there are different takes on DNA, different opinions. Some people will use DNA to say that the Jews in Israel today are not real Jews, that they are from Europe, and they have no right to be here. Some of that is true. Some of them are, yes, from Europe. It's a mix of people in the Jewish community. But so it is with the Palestinian people. There is a mixture of bloodline and relationships among the Palestinian culture as well, which is a combination of the original Palestinian Hebraic connection, and of course with the advent of Islam and the intermarriage and things of that nature, it makes a mix of people. So there's a mix on both sides, Jews and Palestinians. But the fact is, and it cannot be changed, the fact is that the Palestinian and the Jewish gene pool is exactly the same with the mix of a few Arab genes, which means that you're brothers.
Oh.
Now that's a hard saying for some people.
Yes, thanks for Palestinian committee, and thanks for them too.
It is, but it's a hard truth.
Maybe this is true. Can you tell me more about your book, Aisha?
Well, as I was saying, it takes the Bible story when it really began, and it unfolds the historical evidence found in the Holy Bible. Now, the Bible is the only book that really documents the whole story. You may pick up a book here and a book there, and you read parts of the story, but the Bible tells the whole story from the conception of it to the very end of God's plan. And it's important, this message is very important, not just for Palestinians and Jews, it's very important for the Christian world in general, because Christians have been taught wrongly. They've been taught that the Jewish people are God's chosen people, and that God's plans are all for the Jews, and that the Palestinians really have no right to be in this land. Now that's wrong. That's not the truth. That's not what the Bible teaches. And the book opens all of this up with historical evidence and tells the whole story and helps the reader, the Christian, to understand that the Palestinian people are the original Israel of the Bible. The name Israel was first placed upon the ancestors of Palestinians. The Jews today claim to be descendants of the tribe of Judah. That's all well and good. Judah is a part of Israel, but they're not all of Israel. But when they formed a nation in 1948, they took the name Israel to themselves and excluded everyone else. And so the Christians now believe that the Jews represent all of the Bible's Israel, and it's not true. The name was first applied to the ancestors of Palestinians. Judah was one tribe, not the whole of Israel. And DNA confirms that relationship between the Palestinian and the Jew.
On that, this is the subject is very important for that.
It's very important. It's very important for the Christian world to get on board with God's plan, to support the human rights issues and to object to the abuses of the Palestinian committed against the Palestinian people. It's important for the Christian world to get on with the plan of God instead of the plan of man or politics. And most Christians are really good people who want to do the right thing. but we've all been taught wrongly about these things. And so as God is revealing this, as He's resurrecting this ancient truth, it's helping many Christians turn around and see the real truth. And that is only good for them and everybody. It's also important for the United States of America. Because as long as we oppose what God is doing as a nation, our nation is subject to God's anger. So it's a very important subject all the way around.
Now we are going to ask Mr. Bob about when did the mix of bloodline.
Well, I want to thank you for having us come talk about the book, I Shall. And this is a book that has really enlightened me on the Palestinian situation. As I've read through the Bible a number of times over the years, and there is a section in Genesis, which is the first book of the Bible, in chapter 48, that talks about Joseph and him marrying an Egyptian Arabic woman in the city, or in the colony of On, which was an Arabic colony. And he had 2 children, Manasseh and Ephraim.
Ismail.
And Ephraim, as I have read through I Shall, has been the catalyst, or the I guess the founder, or the of the bloodline of the Palestinian people. In fact, it talks about Ephraim throughout Genesis, and it's referred to, and it was an area that was set for him. Joseph was one of the sons of Isaac, of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And Jacob's name was changed to Israel. And so Joseph was the one that was sold into slavery, into Egypt, and he became number 2 in all the land of Egypt. And when there was a famine, his family came to Egypt to survive. And that's how it came about that the family went to Egypt. Joseph was down there for many years. In fact, Joseph died down there.
Yeah.
And they talk about when in Exodus, they bring his bones out and bury him in Palestine at the time. So it's interesting to me. And it's something that I have read it, but I never realized what it was really saying. That the birth of the Palestinian people was right there, from Joseph and his wife, who was an Egyptian Arab. And so it made it clear to me. Yeah. And so that is one of the reasons that I believe that God is wanting to put the 2 cultures back together, the way it was during the time from Solomon back.
To mix them.
You mix it together.
Yeah.
They're brothers.
Yes.
What can I say? Yeah. You and I are brother.
Of course, I'm proud of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Brother Bob, for this important information about the bloodline. And thank you again to come to our studio to speak about this. Ladies and gentlemen, we are returning back again to Mr. Terry to ask him about how do the people react to this news.
Well, when we tell folks that the name Israel was first placed on the ancestors of Palestinians, according to the Bible, not everyone likes to hear that. It shocks their system because they have been brainwashed to think a different way.
Yeah.
So the reaction we get from many people is anger at first until they begin to really read it and see it for themselves. When we first say something like that and proclaim God's plan of love and reconciliation that includes the Palestinians for just and lasting peace, many of them have been taught differently for so long, it's just hard for them to take in. But most the people that we meet are good people, and they love the truth. And a lover of truth is willing to get in there and examine it and to see what it really says. And once they do that, we win many friends. Once a person says, okay, let me check this out, and they go and look at it, then they are filled with new hope and new joy. Because God's plan is better than any political plan. It's better than any plan Israel has. It's better than any plan Palestine has. It's better than any plan. God's plan is the best. And so it creates different emotions. Some people, like I said, are angry. Other people are filled with hope and joy once they catch the vision for what God is really doing.
We are going to next question, and the last question in this beautiful meeting, which is you and them, speak about what needs to happen next to make this happen.
Well, that is an important question, because we all have responsibility. When it comes to the things of God, we must be people who are willing to submit our personal feelings and things to the will of God. So we need to, first of all, find out what God is saying. Now, the Bible is the only book that tells the whole story from beginning to end, and what he plans to do in the future. So we need to know what he's saying from the Bible itself. And as people, we need to apply the truth as we learn it. The Bible says that if we know a truth and we hide it, then we are guilty of, breaking that truth. So we don't want to be guilty. We want to share the truth with others and to help them understand, so that everyone will benefit. Now, as far as the Christian community, it's vitally important for the person, the individual. It's important for the Christian nations of the world to get on board with what God is doing, instead of opposing his plan through their politics. It's important for the Jewish people to stop and to listen and to put aside racism and the things that cause stumbling blocks. It's important that the Jewish people go back and honor their own book, the Torah. Isaiah 58 tells them how they are to treat people. And it's important that they go back and begin to treat the Palestinian brothers as their brothers. It's also very important for the Palestinian people to continue seeking non-violent solutions to these problems, because violence happens for various reasons, of course, and there's a time and place for that, even in the Bible. But God has a plan that he's going to make happen, and it does not depend on what we will do with our military might. Military might can fail you at any moment, but God will never fail you.
Of course.
So it's important that we seek the plan of God in a peaceful nature, we're seeking nonviolent solutions to that. And learning and educating ourselves and our children about the requirements God has of us. But I can tell you this, and I'm happy to tell anyone who will hear this message, is that the Bible prophesies, tells the future about how this is going to turn out. And it is Jesus Christ that's leading the Palestinian people home. He has promised to do it. It's the promises of the Bible are for the Palestinian people as much as a Christian or anyone else. And so we're very excited to be able to share that news, and we all just need to accept God's plan and do what we can to help promote that plan.
Okay, thank you, Brother Terry. You welcome here in Palestine, and you welcome in Nadwa TV. Thank you again. You are a big and important friend for the Palestinian people. Thank you. Thank you, Papa Close, to you are best friend for the Palestinian people and for us, and you are welcome anytime in Palestine. You have places to stay, places to say your message here, and anywhere you want. That's good for us to see you again in Palestine. Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you to listen for us in this important meeting with two important persons. They are coming to visit us from United States to speak out about the important message for the Palestinian people. Thank you again. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.